What's up, guys? Gabe Ramirez here, ready to talk about some exciting news. I know you read about it on social media, and now we get to discuss it firsthand with two of the people that are behind it, David Baldwin, and of course, owner of the Chicago Fire, Joe Mansueto. Gentlemen, appreciate you guys joining me. It's an exciting time for us, and I think the question that we first have, all of us, the entire city of Chicago, is, why now, right? Why bring this stadium to us, this gift? Why hand it to us right now?
Well, Gabe, it all begins with the vision. As we've long said, our vision is to create a world-class soccer club for the Chicago Fire. And a world-class soccer club needs a world-class home. And so we've been on this journey for a while now. We started in Bridgeview. We moved to iconic Soldier Field. We opened up the Endeavor Health Performance Center earlier this year. And it's all been on a journey to create a world-class soccer club. And a world-class soccer club needs a world-class home. And now that the Performance Center is done, we're turning our attention to creating a new soccer-specific stadium right in the heart of Chicago, one that'll give us numerous advantages. It'll give us an unrivaled match day experience for our fans. It'll give us an edge on the pitch. So it'll be a real fortress. When opposing teams come to play us, they'll feel intimidated coming into the venue. And then it'll be our stadium. We can control the whole experience and make it one of the best soccer venues in North America.
I love the fortress. That might be the new nickname from the very beginning of this thing right here. All right, so Joe, when teams make an announcement, something like this, right, a lot of pomp and circumstance, a lot of fanfare surrounding this, but this seemed a little bit more intimate. We saw the letter, a beautiful letter, by the way. Why was that important to you because I've heard you talk about Chicago and your love for it.
Yeah.
But why was it important to kind of unveil this thing that way?
Yeah, we chose a little different tact, a little more personal tact. We'll get to the press conferences and pomp and circumstance a little later. But we wanted to kick it off with something very personal. I have very deep roots into Chicago. I was born in the broader Chicago area in Northwest Indiana. I went to college here in Chicago. So at 18, I came into the city, and then I've never left. I've built my business here. I've raised my family here. I've built my life here in Chicago. So I have a huge passion for the city. And so the letter seemed a very personal way to introduce that, talk about my love for this city in a very direct, first-person style to our fans and to everybody in Chicago.
Yeah, it means a lot to the city and to those of us that are from here. But all right, David, as someone who's not from Chicago, right? What have you grown to love about this city? And, why is it such an exciting time to be a soccer fan here in the city of Chicago?
That's a great question. So I grew up in Metro Detroit, but, spent the last 15, 20 years kind of making my way through the sports entertainment industry. And I lived in Atlanta, I lived in Phoenix, Miami. In Chicago, it stands tall amongst them all. This is my favorite city by far. I think, you ask, what do I like? Amazing architecture, fabulous food, but at the end of the day, for me, it's all about the people. My wife and I, we have 3 little boys, and so this is a great place to raise them. We love being back in the Midwest. And, my 2 oldest boys, they play soccer. And so I get to see firsthand, not just as a team president, but also as a dad of young kids, how influential this sport is. This is the fastest growing sport in America right now. We haven't even had the World Cup come yet, but next year the FIFA World Cup will be here, and we know that that's going to bring millions more fans. So that is, I think, just one small example of how soccer is having a positive impact here. And then, what I would add too is getting a chance to work for Joe. Even though I maybe run a professional sports team, my job is just like everyone else's, where a lot of my job satisfaction is derived from who I get to work for and a relationship I have with my boss. And when you have an owner like Joe who's privately investing to not only put a great team on the pitch, but also a world-class fan experience, that's all that I could ever ask for. And so I think now is a great time for soccer in this city. Chicago is certainly a place that has a lot of public opinion. But when it comes to this particular project, they might not have as much. It might be a positive one. Why? Because this thing is privately funded. So talk to me a little bit about why was that important to you, Joe, for this thing to be privately funded?
No, that's right, Gabe. It's 100% privately funded, and it was important to me. This is an investment in Chicago. It reflects our passion and our commitment for the city of Chicago. And it's an investment that's going to create thousands of jobs in the city, not just construction jobs, but ongoing jobs with suppliers, match day personnel. And I really hope it'll revitalize part of Chicago. Where we're located, the 78 has not been developed. And so I think it'll bring a lot of energy, but it really reflects our commitment to the city. And personally, it's my belief that the way stadiums should be funded. They're very expensive, costly to maintain. And I really think that it really should be borne by the owner of the sports teams. That's where most of the value accrues. And so I thought it was the most fair way to do it. So we pursued that path, and it's allowed us to move a little quicker. We don't have any partners, we control everything. So there's been numerous advantages, but really it's about an investment in our city that we all love and feel passionate about, and really want to see it thrive in the future.
All right, so when talking about investing in this club, we cannot overlook the Endeavor Health Performance Center, right? I mean, in addition to the club and growing its standing across the soccer community. What kind of dividends have you seen the Endeavor Health Performance Center pay for this team in particular, and maybe how it's being looked at across the soccer landscape?
Sure. Well, it's still early, right? We only opened it in March, so I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but it is one of the few performance centers that is built within the city limits. I think it was the most expensive. It's, I think, the second largest in all of MLS. Across the board, it just ticks a lot of boxes on what excellence looks like. And then you consider the fact that, we have our first team and our second team that train there, but we also have our academy kids. So you have U13 all the way up through our first team there. You'll see teenagers there rubbing elbows with Hugo Kuipers or Jonathan Bamba or some of the top players who have come from overseas here. And then we also have a lot of players on our first team who have come through our academy, right? I think we had a game a couple weeks ago where half of our starting roster was born and raised here in Chicago. And so when you think about a facility that is of Chicago, right, and we're recruiting kids from Chicago, that's really important. It also will allow us to continue to attract top international talent. We actually have Man U will be training there this summer when they come to play at Soldier Field. The U.S. men's national team will be training there. So this is a top facility, and we think it's going to allow us to continue to have a great impact on our current team through nutrition, through the fitness program. They're 5.5 pitches. It's the best grass in Chicago. So we're really excited about what it's already doing and what it'll continue to do for the club as we continue to elevate.
Yeah, my dad is equally as jealous of the grass on that pitch as well. But Joe, let me ask you this, right? As the owner, there are a lot of things that come across your desk, right, that need approval. In your mind, why was it important for the Endeavor Health Performance Center to be something that got that yes from you?
Yeah, I'd go back to the vision. We want to create a world-class soccer club. And I think an important part of that is having a world-class performance center where, as Dave said, our players can train and develop, and they can, get to their full potential as players. And then also the academy kids to develop that young talent. And so that was a really critical piece. And then being right in the city, as Dave said, I think was an important part of this too. And so a place that attracts talent, develops talent, and then it's another investment back into the city. Created a lot of jobs, and we've just gotten rave reviews from all of the players from the first team on down about the quality of the facility. It is one of the best facilities in North America, if not the world, for soccer players. And then it also attracts kids from all over Chicago. We trained in Bridgeview previously, which is great if you're on the southwest side. If you're on the north side, not so much. Right in the heart of the city, we can, kids from the south side, the west side, the north side can get to the performance center. So it's, we are the Chicago Fire. We want to be available to residents throughout the city. And so for all those reasons, it was a really necessary step if we want to build this world-class soccer organization.
It's obvious that, the Performance Center has now raised the bar for what the stadium should be, right? If we're looking at it at a macro level. And, the last time you mentioned potential new stadium sites, you had 3 different locations at Greg's press conference earlier. And at that time, you were talking about the broader vision for the Chicago Fire. So talk to me about the broader vision for the 78, right? This is an untapped space. I went to UIC right down the block. I know, the missing part that is right there and what this can be. So what kind of impact do you think will that make on the city?
Yeah, I think it'll have a huge impact. But, first of all, I think you're absolutely right. When you walk through the Performance Center, you get a little taste of what the new stadium's going to be like. You see the quality in the construction, the dedication to excellence throughout the facility. And as we walk through it, all of us get excited about what this means for the next step, adding the stadium. But you ask about the 78 and why we got excited. And, we started to look well over a year ago. I think once the Performance Center was on a good track, the team turned its attention to start to look for a stadium. And we looked at many locations in Chicago. There's not all that many. We're a very well-developed city with a long history. So there's not, a lot of large parcels. But we looked at them all, and the 78 really stood out for a number of reasons. One, I think we all loved its central location. For many modes of transportation, all the highways from the south side, west side, north side converge right at the 78. You have public transportation, the L, the Metra.
Don't forget water taxi.
Water taxis are coming
on the
too.
river, right?
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
You can bike down, you can walk down from the loop. And so that location is just golden, and it's just perfect for a stadium. And once I walked the site, and Dave encouraged me to go take a look at it, and you see the skyline and the distance, it was game over. This is where we want to be. It just felt so right. And then the infrastructure was there. It was all shovel ready compared to the other sites. Fiber optics, sewers, roads, and it was the most ready to meeting our timeline. And then we like the developer. It's a broader site. Related is the developer. It's a 62-acre parcel. And Related is one of the country's top developers. And so you're really partnering with your developer because we need them to follow through on their end to get the development up and going and create this really dynamic sports entertainment hub for all of Chicago, to create a new neighborhood. The 78 refers to the 78th neighborhood in Chicago. We have 77 today. This is the 78th. And Related, if anybody can pull it off, it's these guys. Really talented team. They're all in, they're committed. We've got a great relationship with them. And so as you think about the match day experience, we can control what's in the stadium, but you also want a place where fans can gather before the game, maybe share a beer, talk about the upcoming match, and then after the game, get together, have another beer, or third or fourth, I don't know, and talk about the match. And so you need these pre-post-game spaces and a place that just attracts people. And then we want to have even more events than soccer. And so we'd like to keep the stadium pretty busy throughout the year. And so what's going on in that broader stadium and having a developer like Related who can really bring that to its potential was really important to us. So the 78 really checked off all of those boxes for us.
It seems like, you have the perfect developer, right? You have the perfect real estate, and then you get the yes, but the process. Dave, you're the guy that's behind that process of pushing that through. What has it been like so far for you?
He does the hard work.
That's why I know that. That's why I got to ask him that question.
Well, honestly, it's relatively easy because once Joe makes up his mind on something, it's made up. And so it took us a little bit of time to find the right piece of land. To Joe's point, we had a pretty extensive process to make sure that we were going to find a stadium where we could help with the placemaking and how does everyone feel at home, right? Whether you're a big business, maybe you're one of our corporate partners or suite holders, or you're a family of four from the suburbs who's taken the train in, or you're a supporter that lives downtown and is really passionate about maybe having the 3 or 4 beers that Joe talked about and chanting and everything else. We wanted to find a stadium where we'd be able to help with the placemaking, and we have that at the 78, and we have that with Related. And as far as how we kind of got to where we're at today and what work has gone into it, we have a great internal team. There's a couple people from Joe's family office that have helped on the real estate side, and then a couple key individuals here within the organization. We've been able to do it relatively quietly. I think. Making sure that we're kind of dotting all of our I's, crossing all of our T's, working really closely with Related, with the city to ensure that we're in a good place to get this all ready for the 2028 season is really important to us. So it's been a lot of work, but it is a lot of fun, and we're excited to share more shortly on all that the new stadium will be.
Yeah, it's obvious that it takes a lot of determination, right? I mean, this is still Chicago, right? It's a political city where you gotta, like you mentioned, know the right people. So to pull something like this off is not as easy as you might say, but it is there. But there are still other questions lingering, right? Like right now, the team currently is at Soldier Field. For some fans might have the question, why not stay at a Soldier Field with all the uncertainty that's going on there? What would the answer to that be?
I would say, to your point about it not being easy, you're right. It's not easy anytime you have a project of this size and magnitude. There's so many moving pieces, but it becomes exceptionally easier when it's being privately funded, right? There's just not a lot to not like about this project, right? We're going to go into a space that really hasn't been used in the last 100 years, and it's going to be paid for privately, and it's going to really help catalyze that neighborhood. And as far as Soldier Field, I mean, I don't want to speak on your behalf here, Joe, but Soldier Field is great. It's iconic. It's a historic venue. And it's, I'm sure, great for NFL and for large concerts. It's tougher though for soccer. In North America, you find the top soccer stadiums are traditionally between 20 to 25,000 seats. They have a canopy over top. It limits, noise pollution, light pollution. You're able to control the food and beverage experience. We really want to have a driveway to driveway experience. We want from the time people leave and go to a match to the time they get home for them to have a great experience on behalf of the Chicago Fire, right? And so us being able to control as much of that as possible is really important to us. And the city's been great. The Chicago Parks District has been great. We love playing at Soldier Field. We just renewed our lease there. It expires at the end of the 28 season. Our aspiration is to be in our new stadium by 28, and we do have the ability to get out of that lease early with enough advance notice. But we're really excited to finish playing there this year and for the next couple of years, and continue to partner with the city on that.
Of course. Now, Joe, let me ask you, because when you got the team in 2018, right, you felt it was important to move the team from Bridgeview downtown to Soldier Field, and now you get to take the team into their own stadium. What does that feel like for you?
Feels awesome. Yeah, super exciting. As Dave said, Soldier Field is iconic. It has many advantages. It was better than where we were in Bridgeview, but it's not optimal. And a goal, our standards are very high. We want excellence. We want to build this world-class soccer organization. And so there are some limitations. I think Dave hit on a number of them, but also, I'd point to scheduling. Sometimes, we coexist with the Bears and we end up having to change locations. We have to go back to Bridgeview. And that just doesn't feel right for a club of, what we aspire to be. So we really want to control this and make it our experience, control that match day, and really create this wonderful environment for our fans. And so, it's just super exciting. It's kind of the last piece of the puzzle. We've talked about the Performance Center, but I think that the club it's a club on the rise. The sporting side under Greg Berhalter is going in a really good direction. The academy looks great, producing a lot of talent. And now we need to get, the venue that a club like ours deserves to have. This world-class club deserves a world-class home, and now we're embarking on that journey.
And I would just dovetail, you talked a little bit about us having to move our schedule around the Bears. We also have concerts there, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of events and a lot of kind of scheduling difficulties. And I think that's one of the other things we're excited about with our own stadium. This will be a stadium that is built for soccer first and foremost, and that will always be the priority. But we're looking forward to hosting our own concerts, our own international soccer friendlies. Could be lacrosse, rugby championships, et cetera, right? And I think we want to continue to bring more events to Chicago, right? This is an investment that Joe's making in the club, but also a little bit in the city. And so it won't just be 20 or 25, Chicago Fire soccer matches. We're going to have some really large, what's considered third-party events, big concerts, stand-up comedy. We're also going to have lots of community events and programming through our nonprofit group with our Chicago Fire Foundation. And then we'll also have a variety of corporate events, right? We expect the facility to be programmed probably 12 to 15 times a month with local corporate events, right? It could be a couple hundred people at a time that are using one of our club spaces or our suite level to entertain their guests.
That's so cool to think about, another venue in the city of Chicago that they're able to use, right? Not just for soccer, but a bunch of other events that are out there. And, speaking of the people and the constituents out here in the city of Chicago, how did you guys, when you're thinking about the fans, right? They've always been at the heart of the Chicago Fire. So how do you guys envision kind of including them or having them be a part of this process as it plays itself out?
That's a great question. So obviously a lot of what we've had to do up until now has been really quiet, behind the scenes, confidential. That's one of the reasons we were really excited to announce this week through the letter that Joe wrote. And so now it's up to kind of me and my team to go full speed ahead with our local community members, right? The community that sort of surrounds the 78, with our supporters, with our season ticket holders, our suite holders, our sponsors, people that maybe our community members have never been out to a fire match, but are curious about what's going to be built and what's going on. We're going to do a variety of focus groups. We're launching surveys this week, and our marketing team, our business intelligence team, our community relations team are all going to be working really closely, hand in hand on that. And we're excited to have that help influence a little bit of the stadium design and a lot of what match day looks like, right? Like, I'm curious, what are people's favorite Chicago restaurants that we should try and carve out a space for at the stadium, right? Gabe, I know you love.
Portillo's is down the block from the 78. That's all.
Okay, all
that's
right. There's Portillo's everywhere, right? They are a great partner of the Chicago Fire, so hopefully we can get them in there. But I think, how do we create something that is uniquely Chicago, right? We haven't released the renderings yet, but you will see in the renderings that are about to come out from the design that Joe worked on with our architect, that this is a building that is. It's very of Chicago, right? And so we want to make sure that the match day experience mirrors that.
All right, so Dave just mentioned the design aspect of it, but I'd love to hear about the architectural side of it. What is this thing actually going to be looking like?
Yeah, the design is a huge component of this, and I think we've all really enjoyed engaging with our architect, Gensler, on creating this new stadium. And it was important, I think, to all of us to have a stadium design that really reflects Chicago and is authentic to Chicago. We didn't want a design that really could be plopped down in any major city in the US and kind of a generic modern design, but we wanted something evocative of Chicago's history. And so we landed on leaning into Chicago's industrial manufacturing heritage. And so it's the facade is brick, like a lot of the warehouses and manufacturing buildings you see dotted throughout Chicago. You go down Pershing Road in Chicago, you see all these old warehouse buildings, beautiful brick structures. And so it's reminiscent of that, and it's evocative of that past, but it feels very Chicago.
You both made points along the lines of this being more than a stadium. So, Joe, I got to ask you, what's the bigger vision here? Right? What's the bigger vision? We understand we want the world-class team, which we all want.
Yeah.
Right? But when you're talking about Chicago Fire FC and the future, what is that vision in your eyes?
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge community component to that vision. We want to be of and part of and really integrated into the community. We want to see Chicago succeed, and we think the Fire can play a role in that. Whether it's our after-school programs, that we hold around the city, the Fire youth programs, the junior program with 10,000 kids in it. We touch a lot of Chicagoans, and to me, that's super fulfilling. To kind of bring people together from all backgrounds, all united in a wonderful sporting event. But, this, in many ways is a civic endeavor. It's about, giving back to Chicago. A world-class city like Chicago deserves a world-class club. And you look around the country, Seattle, Portland, Atlanta, and the soccer clubs are a pretty important part of the sports landscape in those markets. And Chicago has that potential. We're on the path to get there, but I think this stadium will be transformative in getting the club there. And it'll be a stadium, and the 78 will be a place that unites all of Chicago. And so, yeah, it's about building a world-class club, but it's also our contribution to building a world-class city.
I will say this, I talked to a lot of people about the club, obviously, hosting everything and trying to be, part of it. And I always tell them, this club looks the most like Chicago, right? When you're talking about the diversity of the fan base, who it brings in, it's everyone. It's not a segment of Chicago. It is everyone. When I look into the stadium as I'm walking around on match day, you see the city of Chicago in the stands, and that's exciting to be a part of. So I guess we know the stadium's on its way, but what's next? What are the next steps for this process right here?
Yeah, it's a lot of what I just hit on, right, around meeting with our community members, our fans. The hope is that we're able to break ground in late 25 or early 26, and then it'll be a pretty aggressive 2-year build timeline, right? That's normally about the time that it takes to get a stadium open, and then that we'd be opening in the spring of 28. And like I said, we're going to be releasing some rendering soon, a fly-through video. I would encourage everyone to go check out dearchicago.com. That is where they can keep up with all the latest news. And this is an exciting project. I think this is one that is not only going to redefine the city skyline and hopefully be the start of the 78th neighborhood for our city, but it's one that's going to redefine our club. And to Joe's point, a world-class city deserves a world-class football club, and we're excited to deliver that.
I will tell you, gentlemen, right now, exciting is an understatement when it comes to this opportunity, not only for the city of Chicago, but as you mentioned, like what it means to us. out here. And, having been a part of the club for a couple of years now, to know that the stadium is on the horizon, it just seems like everything is snowballing in the right direction. And so as a representative of the fan base, I just want to tell you guys thank you very much for what it is that you guys are doing.
No, we're honored to do it. And we invite all of our fans to join us on the journey. We'd love to get your input on how to make this a world-class stadium. This is for you. So we want to make this a great experience for all of our fan base. So join us in the journey. And with your help, I have no doubt we'll get there.
Gentlemen, appreciate you guys giving us that information. I know I feel more informed. I know the fan base does as well. And I'm excited. Yes, that excited about this thing. A brand new stadium coming to Chicago with yours truly, Chicago Fire. It's going to be great. You want to follow along the ride? You heard him talking about it earlier. DearChicago.com. No, not like the animal. DEAR Chicago.com. I'm going to have it on my home screen. I know you guys are too. So let's get it, man. 2028, the big stadium on its way. Guys, appreciate you.
Thanks, Gabe.
Thanks, Gabe.